heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for businesses devoted to it. Almost all business owners launch their company to make a difference in the world around them. Join us on the Heroic Experience as we talk with business owners, senior leaders, and established entrepreneurs so that you too can elevate your business to heroic success. Now, here's your host, John D. Hanson.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We are so proudly sponsored by Kaufman Media. Digital signage is part of the landscape everywhere around us. You can check out their website to learn more about it. KaufmanMedia.com. It's spelled COFFMAN Media.com. Honored to have Carlos del Pozo, co-founder of Team Engine, as our guest today. And I had the privilege of encountering them last year and then learning more about their team as I had a speaking and a conference event out in Denver. Super impressed. But I'm looking forward to hearing his journey, his stories. But we always start off the show, Carlos, with 2 or 3 wow client stories that have gotten to work with you. Welcome to the show, and we look forward to hearing your stories.
Thanks so much, John. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so what comes off the top of your head very first? One of those really enjoyable clients you got to work with your Team Engine solution.
Yeah, so probably the first one, we serve a lot of companies that have deskless workforces. Mm-hmm. And among those, one of the biggest kind of segments for us is landscaping.
Okay.
And so one of the companies that we worked with and continue to work with, of course, is actually there in Ohio, and it's a landscaping business, probably about 50 folks. We work primarily, typically, with like an HR manager or the person in charge of like the HR functions.
Yes.
And so Heather over there at this particular landscaping business was, something we often run into. We call an HR army of one. Basically,
yes.
The HR person who's doing everything,
right,
from hiring all the way to the end, payroll,
right,
and everything in between, which is you'd imagine be common at a 50-person company, but we see
right,
it all the way up to 100, 150.
Yeah.
And so in this case, Heather had all this on her plate, trying to hire, spending a whole bunch of money trying to get folks in the door for their jobs, and then just kind of not making a lot of progress. And,
right.
I think that if folks in that kind of a situation can be pretty overwhelmed with all those hats that they're wearing,
right,
so many they can barely fit out the door.
Right.
But seeing high turnover, lots of applicants, but not lots of hires.
Right.
Lots of money spent, and by implementing our solution, our software, Team Engine, they were able to reduce their spend pretty substantially. Basically, cut it down to a third of what it was, from like $3,000 a month on job boards down to $1,000.
Wow.
Moving from a process that was centered around spreadsheets and pieces of paper.
Yes, manual. Yeah, right.
Yes, a very manual process. But then also being able to, beyond just centralizing and structuring and reducing spend, also was able to connect from the office to a field workforce.
Yes.
One of the things with a business like that is, you have an office and then folks in the field at job sites, going to different locations. And so command and control, but also engagement with that workforce, especially as an HR manager, is critical but extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And so we enabled her to, shorten that distance between the office and the field.
Yeah, I love how your solution, and I know we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it in the third segment, but I love how, unfortunately, HR is sort of demonized nowadays, where they're like doing, I hear often, they're just doing business like they've always done it. They're stuck in the Stone Age, and I don't think that people necessarily appreciate that HR, especially in a small to mid-sized company, they're not just hiring and firing. They're not just employee benefits. They're wearing lots of different hats that should be someone else's role, but the company either hasn't decided to invest or fractionally hired someone to take that on. and then they're under the gun of we need people. Well, everybody's having trouble finding people, especially now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love how that makes them the hero.
Yeah, and as a business, I think we run into so many businesses of that size or similar where they don't even have an HR manager. They might have, it could be shared responsibility across a number of other different supervisors, or it could be still the owner who's handling all that, or it could be the person at the front desk who is sort of involved
receptionist,
also doing all this stuff.
Everything,
Yes. But yeah, like you mentioned, everybody's really, really trying to hire, and what we see is HR has the potential to actually be a really pivotal competitive advantage in the market today because it is so hard and so competitive.
Yeah.
Whether you have the people and can keep them and productive.
That's
can
like
really
a
be
piece.
A defining feature of the business.
Yes, that you just said there, retention. Too often people think of HR as getting people on board, getting them their benefits, filling out the paperwork correctly. But the engagement piece is actually more important because the cost to acquire is 5 to 25 times more expensive than retention, but they don't have the time or the bandwidth or the ability, the software, the tools to engage with the ones they already have. And so you could end up losing people where if you're not engaged, my son works for a landscaping company, family owned here in Ohio. Great culture. They do a fantastic job of engagement, and they use Team Engine, by the way. They just onboarded that last August. Yeah, they love it. They're so good about intentionally engaging their team. So a lot of proactive engagement and communication channels back and forth. Like you said, these aren't people that work at a desk. They're out working in the field, literally. So how do you stay connected with them where HR isn't just someone that you only contact when things don't go right with your paycheck or your benefits? And this gives a tool where they can engage. What was one of your, we only have about a minute and a half till our first break, but what's another example you can think of a company that you worked with, Carlos, that you really found quite rewarding?
Yeah, and I think this other one is it was really at a especially hard moment in time. It was a beverage distributing company in Iowa that we signed on in March of 2020.
Okay.
They signed on to focus, to really, for us to help them with hiring. And we did, of course, continue to do that. But when COVID hit, their circumstances and needs changed. Yeah. And so this is a company of at the time about 600 folks.
Wow.
They had just signed on a big new fancy HR payroll system that promised to be able to do everything under the sun. But after 6 months of onboarding it, they realized that it didn't help them really engage with their workforce, and they still were using their phones to get everything done. But when COVID hit, that meant that they had to really figure out a way that they could be keeping people up to date about changing guidance. And then they found themselves having to run surveys around, safety and health to make sure folks, were safe to come into work. And they started out doing that with pieces of paper, again, distributing across a warehouse floor and a field staff, and by using Team Engine and the ability to text, but also embed surveys within those texts.
Yeah.
They were able to just, blast that out to 600 folks and get that done.
That's fantastic. So for those of you listening, we are grateful to be official partners with Team Engine, because once I came across their concept, I was like, we have got to be connected with this company. Their solution is needed whether you're a small, mid-sized, large company, because it harnesses the ability that people use digital devices all the time. Well, we're up against a break. Join us back where we get to hear Carlos's story in segment 2.
Inspire, influence, and connect your audience with digital signage. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Whether you need digital menu boards for your quick service restaurant, digital displays for marketing in your retail stores, or wayfinding and unified communications for your schools, your corporations, or your healthcare facility, our customizable, affordable options and proven experience make us the only partner you'll need for your next digital signage project. Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Would you buy a car from a dealer without a test drive first? For your business, a consulting partner is even more important. Accelerated Revenue is excited to announce the Take Us for a Test Drive event. Receive 2 exclusive workshops on customer experience and winning culture, a customized culture snapshot, and a leadership strategy session worth over $10,000, all in for just $2,500. Best of all, when you onboard our consulting team, we'll credit you the entire $2,500. Spots are limited, so visit our website today at accrev.com/test drive.
Check out John's worldwide selling book, Wow Your Customers, 7 Ways to World-Class Service on Amazon. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience. We're grateful to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website, kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Happy to have Carlos del Pozo, co-founder of Team Engine, as our guest today. Carlos, is my favorite segment. We get to hear the stories of our guests and go back as far as you like. 9 minutes does go fast, but not fast enough where we can cover as far back as you'd like. What got you to where you are today?
Sure. So I grew up in a small business family. Both of my parents were small business entrepreneurs.
Okay.
At one time, actually, a landscaping business for my dad, and then on my mom's side, running sort of more of a professional services business. But that was just like the family and household and life that I grew up in. It was sort of second nature to me to see my parents being leaders and also for them running businesses and going through all the ups and downs of that. So that was, kind of at my foundation. I went off to college, and then in college I was in ROTC, and I came out of college and commissioned as an infantry officer in the Army, and served in the Army for 4 years before heading off to business school. And then coming out of business school, I decided, I was looking around at what I wanted to do, saw, folks going off and doing things like consulting or investment banking and other professional services, and I was excited about the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, and came across a way to do that, which is essentially to go out and buy an existing business and run it. So, kind of a shortcut to the CEO type role.
Right.
And because of my military experience, I had an affinity for, the dynamic of a workforce that is, in the field, more of like a blue collar workforce. So I sort of gravitated to, like landscaping and construction, those types of businesses.
Yes.
Well, in the course of spending time with those businesses, I talked to a lot of business owners and saw a lot of awesome growing businesses that were doing really well, but came across sort of a recurring theme of businesses that were constrained by labor.
Yes.
And so despite all this demand and all this opportunity, it wasn't super clear to me how I was going to really capitalize on it and capture it if I couldn't just get the folks who I would need to actually deliver. So I started thinking about what I would do to address that problem, and I looked around for solutions and technology solutions in particular.
Yes.
And I didn't really see any. So it seemed like a big gap and a big opportunity, and that was a pretty key motivator for me to pursue this opportunity and to start this business.
Yeah, for sure. And it sounds like, if I've studied your background and your history enough, you didn't go in on this alone. So why did you involve others, and who did you involve in this process?
Yeah, so I have 2 co-founders, Ed and Dave, and we came together on this really, I think, out of a shared interest in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I had that experience of going out and looking at businesses and coming across this pain point. My co-founder, Ed, was also kind of doing some exploration in these types of businesses, but from the perspective of the actual employees and seeing what kind of friction they were experiencing in their job search process. And so we sort of, encountered the same problem and aligned around the same problem. And then Dave, also really interested in starting a business and, had a lot of experience working with Ed, so we all kind of created this dream team, if we can be so self-praising, I guess, to go after this problem. And it's been extremely beneficial to work with others and to not be, just going solo on this, although many people do it very successfully. It's been great to have other folks to lean on and to collaborate with and enjoy the highs and lows with.
Yeah. So when did Team Engine officially launch, and where did you really start to see the momentum build with it?
Yeah. So we started at the very beginning of 2018. We got our first paying customer at the end of January 2018, and that was not so much momentum being built as it was just kind of a key component of our strategy was, really spending time with customers who had a need that was like a valuable need for them to solve. And so we spent really the first year doing that same thing, going out and getting a customer here, a customer there, solving a problem for them, discovering new problems in the course of spending time with them and seeing their process and results. And then probably in 2020 at the very beginning is when we really, end of 2019 going into the beginning of 2020 is when we really started to see the first signs of like really strong traction.
Yes.
And so the first 2 weeks of March 2020 were pretty awesome, and then the last few were not so great, as everybody sort of tried to figure out what was going to happen in the world. But so we had to go through that period and just kind of wait and see. But coming into last year, over the course of last year, we grew over 300%. So really actually saw the fulfillment of that traction that we had started to see at the beginning of 2020.
And I think that would be an encouraging note for people that see a need in the market. They know they can fill it or have an idea to fill it. You took your time really diving deep, getting things fine-tuned for almost 2 years. And it wasn't that you had no business. It's that you focused, it sounds like, very strategically. Let's dial this in and get this as good as possible, and then let's be concerned about scale and growth. Let's really get it dialed in first. Was that part of your thought process going in, or did that your partners, who or what inspired that? Let's get it right first and then focus on growth.
100%. So one of my co-founders had previously founded another company, and that was sort of the approach they had taken with a lot of success. And so we follow that same kind of approach and methodology and philosophy. The one thing I'll say about it is that we did definitely take our time, in terms of trying to get it right. But one thing that we did that I think is different than what a lot of folks do is we really overemphasized on getting in front of our target market. So what we didn't do is we didn't sit in a room with a whiteboard thinking about all these, big ideas that would be super amazing and, these charts that would lead straight to, a huge business.
Right.
We spent time in their
world. Yeah.
We spent time in the warehouse floor. We spent time with the folks that we wanted to help. Actually understanding their experience and trying to live it, and then putting solutions that we thought might help in their hands, seeing if they worked, seeing what the gaps were, and improving from there.
Wow. Well, we're up against another break. Looking forward to that third segment. If you enjoy listening to the Heroic Experience, you can find us in all different ways. Spotify, Podbean, our Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel, Google Podcast, Amazon Music. However you enjoy listening, add us to your list. Encourage others to do the same. Join us back after the break.
Did you know that 70% of U.S. residents 12 and older recall seeing digital signage in the past week? Digital signage provides a 35% reduction in perceived wait time with a 30% increase in a customer's in-store browsing time. Kaufman Media offers customizable digital signage solutions designed to meet your company's specific goals. Christina said,
"We love our digital signage. The software is easy to use and we can publish content in minutes. It allows for every department to be seen and have a voice."
Visit kaufmanmedia.com today to learn more. That's COFFMAN media.com.
Attention event planners. Is your company or association planning a conference, seminar, or staff retreat? Are you looking for fresh ideas on high-demand topics like customer experience, leadership, empathy, customer service, earning and keeping trust, and more? Then you need to book John D. Hansen as your next speaker. Brooke said,
"Great presentation. John's concepts help shift my thinking. A good fit for my life right now."
Read more testimonials, discover John's full list of speaking topics, check out pricing and more on our website, accrev.com/keynote.
Would you like to be a guest on the Heroic Experience? Contact us at john.hansen@accrev.com. Now, once again, here's John.
Welcome back to the Heroic Experience, where we are proud to be sponsored by Kaufman Media. Check out their digital signage solutions and far more on their website at kaufmanmedia.com. That's spelled COFFMAN media.com. Honored to have Carlos del Pozo, co-founder of Team Engine, as my guest today. Carlos, you touched on this in the first and second segment, actually, that there was a significant gap in the market where you saw a point of pain, didn't really see a solution for it, but you did encounter, in one of the stories you shared, supposedly there was a solution bundled in, and we find that you can't do everything well. So if a software or a solution says, hey, we can help you with that, we can help you with this too, and about 5-10 other different things, that's not true, we've found in experience. So my question to you is, as a differentiator, there aren't that many that do exactly what Team Engine does. What was the thing that was the greatest challenge then to help companies get how important it is what you had to offer? What educational piece did you have to share with them for the light bulb to come on?
Yeah, probably the early one that was the first one that we had to tackle, and there have been several, but the first one, we started really focused on the hiring activity, as may have surfaced from what we talked about. We talked to folks that were struggling to hire, struggling to have enough people to do the work. And the sub-problem within that problem that they identified was always that they didn't have enough applicants. So they always said, if we had more applicants, this problem would go away. If we had more people to choose among, we wouldn't be so worried about all the folks who are not qualified that are applying. We wouldn't be so frustrated with all the folks that are applying who don't respond when we, pick up the phone and call them, et cetera. So we heard that and we said, okay, we'll go after that problem. And so we started there, focused on trying to increase the flow of applicants to employers and to hiring managers. Okay. And we did that successfully. So in one of those customers that I alluded to that we had early on in 2018, we did that. And so, we went to them and said, hey, look, you've got all these applicants now. Are you happy? And, they said, well, yeah, but, nobody's responding when we reach out. And when we get in touch, nobody shows up for an interview. And then when we get them an offer, they don't actually show up. And so we said, okay, well, that's interesting. So we spent some time with that. And what we realized is that they were getting all these applicants. They were getting applicants before, but they thought they needed more. But what was happening is that they just had so much going on that they were not really doing what they should be doing with these applicants. They were basically what's happening is what we call they were dying on the vine. They were applicants, great applicants, qualified, sitting there in their own inbox, timed out to be reviewed, but they wouldn't be reviewed for 3-7 more days, much less.
They're already somewhere else.
Reached out to you. Yeah, they're gone. They're gone at that time. So that was a problem. But then we realized there were things like that throughout the process, which made it clear that there was just the process itself was not going to support their objectives. But then at the same time, they didn't necessarily have the resources to support the process that would achieve their objectives. And so that's where, the kind of fundamentals of our solution really came in, which is, one, basically the text format turned out to be really key with this workforce. They were picking up their phone and calling folks or sending emails.
Right.
Emails, don't work for this segment of the market typically, for the most part. And then really nobody answers calls from numbers they don't recognize anymore, so that doesn't work also. So text is the way to go. Second, they needed automation because they didn't have the time to do it.
Yes.
And automation really allows you to make sure the right things are happening, but also make sure they're happening at the right time and consistently. So you don't have to worry about things slipping through the cracks. But then third, because we have automation, because we have these processes set up, you now need to make sure that you're doing the right things. And not everybody necessarily knows what those right things are. And so we can embed actually the best practices into those automations so that not only are things happening automatically, but they're actually the right things that are happening automatically.
Right.
And that was a big light bulb moment for us.
My gosh, yeah. Just in that last paragraph of content you gave us, there's so much, but I want to highlight three things. One is text-based communication, how important that is, because that is how the bulk of people prefer to communicate that are not tied to a desk, number one. That's how we function throughout the day on our personal lives, too. Second one is automation, how it frees up. And the third one is, are the right tasks getting done? You can be productive and get things done, but is it the right things getting done? And it goes back to what we talked about in the first segment of too many hats. Going in that the customer's greatest need is they have a person that's doing way too many things. And so, of course, they can't hire and can't respond timely because the HR, quote-unquote, HR person is wearing multiple hats. Or even if there is a designated HR person, that's not the only thing they're doing. Or they're in an antiquated system that doesn't have automation. All those strikes against them. Steve Jobs said something where he said, you have to provide people what they need before they realize what they need. And I liked how your process progressed with the customer's journey, where they identified, all right, this is our biggest point of pain. All right, let's solve that. While we solve it, I think you already knew this won't fix everything for them. There's other things they're going to need. Before we get into we got about a couple minutes left. Before we get into a follow-up question, I wanted to make sure you got a chance. What's the best way for people to engage with Team Engine? What are some ways to do that?
So the best way to get in touch is through teamengine.io.
Okay.
That is our website. You can go through there. We have a lot of resources on there that are, just like how-tos and guides. So even if you don't use the software, it should be a helpful resource.
Okay.
And also you can sign up for a trial there.
Okay. And I know you've got a great presence on social media, LinkedIn in particular. Any kind of events or something that people could be looking for that might be coming on your website or a live event where they could interact with your team?
We do have those. They should be listed on the social media side, and we also have those pushed out through our newsletter. So if folks want to sign up for that, that'd be another great resource to find out about those coming up.
Yeah. Well, we've got literally about 30 seconds left before the end of this. Time has flown like it always does. When I came across this concept of Team Engine, I was just so blue collar is the space we want to focus on, because you can't automate people, you can't outsource them, you can't add robots or AI or technology can help, but it's really about the people. You need the people to do what you do. And that's what I loved about your solution. What has been the most rewarding part for you on this journey, Carlos?
It's tough, but building our team has been amazing, but building that team so that we can support others, building their teams and creating happy, productive workplaces, that's been pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest. Again, you need to follow Team Engine, subscribe to their newsletter, especially if you're in that blue-collar space where labor is one of the most important aspects of your business. Well, join us back on another episode of The Heroic Experience, where we are committed to elevating your business to heroic success. We'll see you next time.
This has been The Heroic Experience. To learn how your business can be profitable and heroic, visit ACCREV.com. For access to free weekly content, subscribe to the Accelerated Revenue YouTube channel and follow John D. Hanson on LinkedIn. To listen to archived shows, find them on the Accelerated Revenue website under the Resources tab, ACCREV.com. Heroism. It's the pursuit of two ideals, excellence and a higher purpose. This noble mission is not just found in Hollywood. It's a game changer for business.